Alright, welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Sorry about the delay there. Just had to take care of a couple quick things for my day job. Yeah, wild times we're living in, but we're here now. Got Falcon in the house, Haney, Castillo, Mezcal Ito, Zach Waite, Aristo. Welcome. Might be jumping in chat with a few of you guys in just a minute. Maybe like Falcon, the other guys from the QSA Discord, just to get their thoughts on builds. But yeah, let's get started here. This is going to be a little bit of a different stream today. We're going to be doing some theory crafting, so I'm just going to kind of show you guys the process first of how I make my builds. Some people have submitted some matchups, so I mean, all of the matchups that people submitted are hard, I'm not going to lie. These are all matchups that are perceived to be one-sided, so we can definitely talk about them. I'm always of the opinion that no matchup is unwinnable, and a lot of it depends on map and player, but we'll take a look at a few different things here. Proving Ground is too slow-paced. You know what, Mezcal? I've been playing the fast-paced version, and I think that for me is spot on. I think some people will like the slower pace, but for me, the fast-paced is definitely what I'll be playing. Hey, what's up, Katama? But I personally like some of the changes they've made in the Proving Ground so far. Like, I've been playing actually off camera. I've been playing a Lokir Felheart campaign. I know I had started that one a while back that kind of ended disastrously, and I restarted it on the fast campaign setting, and I actually got rolling pretty quick on that, and I'm having a lot of fun with it. Yeah, we're just about here. Let's go ahead and switch over to the main screen. Probably going to keep the Med 2 track playing. Actually, in that case, let's go ahead and do this. Go ahead and just turn the music off here so we're not getting double tracks. Not that I don't love the Warhammer 2 menu music, but just allowing me to play whatever I want. Not necessarily whatever I want, because, you know, YouTube, but you know what I mean. Just get a little bit more variety there. So, let's dive into things here. A few different people wanted me to talk about Wood Elves into Dwarves. My number one tip... No, well, I'm always going to give you this tip. In a tournament setting, if you find one of these matchups that you just have a really hard time with, like, for example, Wood Elves into Dwarves, people wanted me to talk about Chaos into Vampire counts. That's another really hard one. Bretonnia into Vampire counts can be tough. Bretonnia into Lizardmen definitely can be tough. Vampire counts into Dwarves. Again, all of these matchups are tough, but... my first piece of advice always is if you're in a pick and ban format, you should ban one of these factions. If you can avoid playing that matchup, that's the number one way to win it, right? It's just to not play it. Now, of course, you can't always do that. Sometimes in a pick and ban format, based on the way the picks have gone, you get forced into weird situations. And so it's good to know, you know, some ways to try and win this matchups. And then obviously in ladder, people counter-picking you. I mean, you can just leave the lobby if you want. But if you want to try and play the match out, it's good to know some armies, right? So let's get into things a little bit here. Yeah, Noobhammer's still pretty active. Definitely. It seems like yeah, at least once a week, a couple times a week, there's a new player popping in there, asking questions, looking to get some games and stuff in. It's a good time. So we're gonna talk first Wood Elves against Dwarves. Now this is a map. This is a map-dependent matchup. Very, very map-dependent matchup. There's a few different reasons why. Number one, you have one of the only single-entity monsters that can hide in the forest and actually has an incredibly close spot range. Like, you have to be really close to spot the Ancient Tree Man or Durthu in a forest, which means that in a heavily forested map, like, for example, I have Blood Pine Woods pulled up here, you could potentially advance all the way through the woods here under cover of the trees, and your single entities, especially if you have like one or two treemen, I mean, granted, the magic damage isn't great against the dwarves. You do have good armor piercing damage, but one thing, on a forested map, you could do something like this. Take the Ancient Treeman. I might keep Foe Seeker. Probably go with a healing-centric build. Shield of Thorns is pretty good here because the dwarves don't have a lot of magic damage. And then Earthblood will just kind of allow you to spread your healing around a little bit. I might actually forego taking Regrowth here, which may be dangerous, but for the time being, we're just going to stick with that. We'll take 2 Waystalkers. One of them is going to have the Eye of Kurnos. One of them will not, just to save on cost, and we can have them stand together. The reason you do want to have this Eye of Kurnos, at least on one of them, is it increases the missile damage not only of their missile attacks, but also of this Arrow of Kurnos, which is how you're going to snipe out dwarf artillery pieces. It's a little bit RNG dependent, so you can get screwed over pretty hard sometimes, but this Arrow of Kurnos ability, if you connect, I want to say it one-shots dwarf artillery models. Could be wrong about that. But, yeah. So that's kind of how I would start, at least on a forested map. Start from this base here. You've got a cheap terror-causing lord. You probably want to grab Tap Power Stone as well. Scroll of Shielding might not be a bad idea also. And then from here, Wildwood Rangers, if you can get them into the dwarf line in this matchup, will do a ton of damage. Their defense is something to be lacking, though, definitely. Treekin useful? No. Treekin are not useful. The only thing Treekin are useful for is blocking cavalry. So let's just have a quick comparison. I've made this comparison a few times before, but just as a reminder to everyone of how bad Treemen are in terms of offensive stats, let's pull up, and I mean, granted, Saurus are very good in terms of offensive stats, at least for infantry. They don't have the best melee attack, only 29 melee attack, but 52 weapon strength. There's 75 of them, right? 75. Keep that in mind. So if we have a look at Treekin over here, they have less melee attack, right? Only 25 melee attack. They have a slightly more weapon strength, but there's 12 of them. 12 compared to 75 Saurus. So you see how just like abysmally bad their offensive stats are for monstrous infantry. Like, they have by far the lowest weapon strength of any monstrous infantry, and I think they have the lowest melee attack too by far. So I would say Treekin are not useful in anything except for blocking cavalry charges. That's literally it. That's the only thing. And even then, they're kind of slow, so only 34 speed means they have a hard time even doing that very well. So yeah, definitely not Treekin against the dwarves. Treemen, though, Treemen, both Durthu and the ancient Treemen and the regular Treemen all have armor-piercing damage, so despite the fact they do magic, may be worth it to have them here. Anyway, from here, I'm going to be honest, I'm no expert in this matchup. It seems like Eternal Guard, I mean, they have okay AP, and at least they have shields so they can block some incoming fire on the approach. I might take some bows. Starfire Shafts don't have magic damage, so you could probably take like 5 of them. And then maybe 1 Deepwood Scouts to help snipe artillery and slayers or something. I don't know. This is super haggard. Treekin or Master Blob unit. Yeah, if you want to have a death blob and that's one of the only ways you can realistically protect your elf infantry from getting multi-charged, just because elf cav, wood elf cav is not super cost effective in just heads up melee engagements. They're also just very expensive in general, so you can't bring very many of them. Yeah, Treekin do not have AP. No, Treekin are terrible. Treekin are probably one of the worst units in the game, to be honest, in my opinion. Like, they're probably in the bottom 5, if I had to guess. Okay, so they do beat Dwarf Warriors. Yeah, I mean, if we look at stat comparisons here, Dwarf Warriors and Eternal Guards are both like some of the most cost-effective low-tier troops in the game. Eternal Guards with shields are a little bit more expensive, but they do have slightly better stats. They have armor piercing, which helps against the dwarf's heavy armor, right? And then, yeah. Yeah, I mean, again, slightly more expensive, but that definitely is decent there. Not really, no. But what you would do here, ideally, is you snipe the dwarf's artillery out with the Waystalkers, and then you pull them apart with your archers. You have these 5 Glade Guard kind of in a giant concave, and then you pull your opponent apart and never really give them a heads-up engagement. So at that point, you can try and bait out their blasting charges and run away. You could try and take them on the Treemen. I mean, blasting charges do fire damage, but they don't do that much armor piercing, at least if they're from miners. So, I mean, you have the physical resistance to kind of help mitigate that, and I think they count as missile attacks as well, I want to say. They're subject to missile resistance. I actually don't know. I haven't tested that. I don't know if it's possible to test that, but, I mean, they are missile attacks, so it would make sense if they were subject to missile resistance. So, I mean, you could take them on the tree men. Regoth plus dragon, 2 breath attacks. Yeah, the breath attacks on the blobs of dwarves can be pretty good, and then you charge down. Falcon, of course, advocating for dragons, as always, but it is a valid strat, for sure. ROR Treekin, you don't really need it here. I mean, I guess, here's the thing. All the dwarf units that do fire, the only reason you take this guy is for the fire resistance. That's literally it. I mean, that's literally it. This AoE fire resistance is pretty good in some situations, for sure. Don't get me wrong. Against the dwarves, though, I mean, I guess blasting charges do fire damage, so I don't know. I would have to do some testing. I really don't think you're paying 1,100 points for a unit that's literally you're taking for that one AoE thing. I mean, it has 62 melee defense, but again, that offensive output, especially considering they have magic attacks against the dwarves, is just bad. It's bad in every way. Just so bad. I can't stress how terrible it is. The new arty pieces, yeah. See, that's the thing, Falcon, is you try and just sit back and play the Waystalkers. I mean, you don't really have any units that have... I guess it doesn't really count as attacking, huh, in rule sets to be attacking with the Waystalkers. So you'd have to, like, put one unit forward and try and take it on the chin with them. I don't know. Yeah. Exactly, yeah, the dragon, you make a good point, and it's a similar story with the tree men. Like, the tree men doesn't have as much weapon strength, but it's still enough. I mean, dwarf models are still going to get hit pretty hard by that, right? Durthu, I mean, obviously at 470, but the dragon at 450, or 440, 430 for the tree men. Pretty good. The breath attacks here, definitely. The one thing, the forest dragon does have only 50 armor, but the physical resistance actually helps a lot here against missiles, because you stack the 20% physical with the 25% missile, so you get, what, 45% resistance overall plus your armor mitigation for non-armor piercing damage, so that's pretty good. Might do something like this. Maybe come in here. Oh, we're literally 1 gold short of grabbing an Eternal Guard meat shield. That makes me a little sad. Let's not think about that too much. Probably just cut Foe Seeker. Yeah, the basic 1500 one is, yeah, I mean, the reason I take the Ancient Tree Man is he's a caster, monster, healer, you know, lord, all in one. So he kind of gives you, and he's pretty cheap too, so he kind of gives you a lot of utility for the cost, and he fills this specific slot so that I can take two Waystalkers and not have to take a caster separately. No, the Ancient Tree Man, he has armor piercing damage. He has pretty decent attack, and not to mention he has this Call of the Woods. So, I mean, he gets up to a decent, he's not the best, but, I mean, 40-something is not bad, definitely, and he's a healer. And he has good armor piercing damage, 280 AP. Yeah, pretty good amount of HP as well. He's a little slow. Charge defense against all. I mean, I guess it matters against Slayers in this matchup, which is kind of nice. He'll actually mitigate Slayer's charge bonus, which isn't a ton, but it's 26. That's something. Not nothing. 32 for Giant Slayers. Wow, cycle charging Giant Slayers OP confirmed. It's actually a lot for an infantry, considering they'd be hitting it 82 and, yeah, like 70 weapon strength each. That's actually a lot for infantry. Infantry tend not to have very much charge bonus because it's very strong for them to have a lot of charge bonus. Sorry, I just grabbed a drink real quick. Yeah, so this is pretty much my thoughts on this matchup. Again, I'm not really an expert here, so take all of this with the palate of salt, but the key thing is, like, having Arrows of Kurnos snipe out the Dwarven artillery. If that fails for you, then you're going to be in trouble, for sure. Forest Dragons, I definitely like that pick here. I didn't realize that they had 20... I thought it was only 15% missile, but 25%, especially if you're throwing Shield of Thorns at them, so they're basically ethereal, right? The Dwarves can't get magic on their missiles by any means. So you basically have two flying big birds with breath attacks, right, that actually do armor-piercing damage. But yeah, you would probably want to get Regrowth instead here. So I might take Shield of Thorns and Regrowth, but at that point, you need to cut something. Oh yeah, Wood Elves are very, very hard. Way Watchers. Yeah, Way Watchers are still good here. And especially if you have the two Way Stalkers, like in this build, rather than taking the Forest Dragons, you could go with, like, 3 Way Watchers. And just, this is, again, just mass missile, pull them apart. Dwarfs are going to be slower than you. So it's going to take a long time, and it's not going to be fun for anyone. But you'll win if you don't make any mistakes. Swift Shiver Shards. This is like 2 of the worst units you can take in Wood Elves against Dwarves are Swift Shiver Shards and Treekin. Because Swift Shiver Shards do non-armor piercing magic damage. And then Treekin have terrible offensive stats and also do magic damage. So yeah. Will there be any games this stream? I don't know. I actually might show one for a matchup that I have, like if I have a replay for a specific matchup. Okay, let's see. What did I have next on my list? I do want to try and move through these. Chaos. Somebody wanted me to talk about Chaos in general, and especially against vampire counts, but just sort of Chaos in general. So, let's have a chat about Chaos. I know, Aerocrastic's going to be a fan of this, so... Sigvald is not very competitive, but he is very tanky, so if you're sick of getting Lord sniped, you can take Sigvald. And I'll typically cut Foe Seeker and Deadly Onslaught on him. Some people will keep Foe Seeker if you have the gold for it. But I typically cut it while I'm building my army, and then I'll come back and buy it if I have the points. Exalted Heroes are pretty cost-effective right now. On foot, I would say, or on the Manticore. You don't want to take them on the Steed, probably. But on the Manticore is very cost-effective. It's essentially you pay 300 points more for a Manticore that won't enrage and has better stats, basically, right? So if we compare the Feral Manticore, the Exalted Hero, you get 5 more charge bonus, despite the fact the bar goes down. And you get more weapon strength, attack, health, armor, and leadership. Obviously, you don't enrage, and instead you actually encourage. So it's a little bit of a trade-off. Is this actually worth 300 points? I would say not all the time, but there are definitely cases where you would want this. Alternately, though, you can, depending on the rule set, take this guy on foot for only 600 points, and he's basically like a unit of Chaos Warriors all in and of himself, just, you know, 150 points cheaper, and he's only one dude, so he can't take up as much space. But I'm actually a big fan of the Exalted Heroes right now. Mirror Guard in every game, I would generally agree with that. These guys are very cost-effective. They have really good stats, immune to psychology, and they're shielded. Have good missile block chance as well, as do most Chaos Warriors. In fact, Chaos Warriors with shields and Chosen with shields specifically have the best missile block chance in the game at 60%, and are just absolute beasts for the cost. 60 defense, 46 attack, 44 weapon strength, a ton of leadership at 85. I'm a huge fan of this unit of Chosen specifically. I don't typically take either of the other 2 variants of Chosen, especially because often I'm running the actual competitive Lord, which is most of the time, in my opinion, Big Bird. Like Big Bird, there are situations now where I think other lords are probably more competitive, but for a long time, he's been the most competitive. Number one, he's unbreakable, which is just awesome, always. Lore of Metal's pretty strong. He's long been pretty strong. We'll talk more about that in a minute, but... They're halberd, elite halberd units in general are just in a weird place, in that they don't fight monsters very well, especially high-tier monsters, now that we have things like Mammoths, Dreadsaurians, and especially if you get, like, multi-monstered. Like, this is the... Let me demonstrate very quickly the halberd problem, because this is relevant to Chosen with halberds here. So, if I come in here, and if I get good old Sigvald, and we'll give him his Auric armor so he doesn't die right away, and let's go to Glacial Lake here. We can do some testing and demonstrations while I'm talking through this, just to give you guys something to watch. So yeah, let's get him, and let's get a unit of Chosen with halberds, right? And we're gonna do sort of a demonstration about, and I know this is not really, like, right in terms of cost, but this is just for demonstration purposes. Here, we don't even need another giant. We can even just do this. Yeah, you know what? Big Bird's fine. And we don't need those Lizardmen. So, yeah, we'll do this. Yeah, so Arthuriel has a weird mass profile. He gets knocked around by a lot of stuff, but at the same time, he can pull through almost any infantry very easily, because he, like, skates around almost, kinda. So anyway, so this is the halberd problem, right? The halberd can only be in one... I mean, you can only have so many halberds in base contact with a monster at the same time. I mean, a halberd, you know, it takes up a certain amount of space. You can't really stack multiple halberd units on top of each other. That's not really how it works. However, I can fight this unit of halberds with multiple monsters at the same time, right? So it's going to take a minute because everyone's kind of slow, but we'll get these guys all grouped up here. Giant's slow, so we got to wait on him. Okay. So we're going to bring the giant in here. Sigvald thinks he wants to engage. That's fine. So we'll go ahead and just get that Plague of Rust. Some extra melee defense. And you can see that the Chosen with halberds, despite the fact they're an elite halberd unit designed to fight monsters, they're going to lose here, just straight up. And this is, I mean, again, you can't really stack multiple halberd units on top of each other very well. I mean, this isn't maybe the best comparison, but you guys get the idea, right? Sigvald's doing his best here, but this halberd unit is just going to get crumped by multiple monsters fighting at the same time, right? I don't know, maybe they'll finish off the Manticore. Armored Trolls. Because of the leadership, I would say Trolls are probably not the best versus Vampires, but... yeah. I might actually end up losing this demonstration, just to kind of show me who's wrong, but you guys get the idea, right? Like, he can only really be in one place at one time with the halberds. I think, honestly, Sigvald is probably screwing this up because he's too strong, but... yeah, I hit army losses. Oh, well. But yeah, exactly. With, like, Kolek, something that's fast like Kolek, where you can cycle charge the halberds, like, the halberds are so slow that you can pull out and pull back, right? So... yeah, see, if I were to do this with, like, say, like, 2 Shaggoths, like, let's say we had Kolek and another Shaggoth. I mean, obviously, it's different because they're a lot more powerful, but the speed here, like being able to cycle charge, the fact that the The halberds are so slow, and I just kind of left the manticore in there to die, but, like, if I had been cycle charging that manticore too, like... They did just beat 4.4k gold worth of monsters, yes. And yet, somehow in practice, like, it just doesn't work like that. Like, see, if we were to come in here and do, Lizardmen, right? Take one Kolek and a Marauder. I don't think a Marauder's gonna stand up hard enough. But my point is that, again, like, one halberd unit can only fight so many monsters, like, yeah, so many monsters, right? Oh, I like Chosen. I like regular Chosen. But, see, the thing is here, like, regular Chosen, they're cheaper, right? They have more melee defense, 6 more melee defense. They have more melee attack as well, so they're better against infantry. Like... Take 2 Koleks. Yeah, see, no, if we take 2 of these guys, right? And 1 Marauder. Often, Zach, yeah, often. Like, the sustained combat definitely turned against me, but if you go back and watch, like, on that initial engagement there, like, when the Giant comes in, Sarthrel comes in, and the Manticore all come in, like, at the same time, that multi-charge, that's when you get a lot of the damage, right? So, don't get too cute, guys. This is the thing, too. See how easy it is for me to outmaneuver these slow infantry units? You can see when they form up to brace, I can just immediately feint the charge. Charge, get a couple attacks in there. Pull back away, and see, this is the halberd problem, right? So I can keep doing this all day. Charge back in. I love how there's like 2 halberds way out here in the distance. Yeah, I agree with Random Nix. I'm about the shielded ones for sure. I think they're going to be the best value, especially because of the missile block chance. The main thing, and this is not even accounting for the fact they're getting killed by monsters right now, right? Like if you look at missiles as well, obviously, like armor-piercing missiles or magic. I mean, there's so many things that kill armored infantry, right? Like if I call in a lightning strike right here, this is going to do a ton of damage. Right when the Shaggoth charges in. And see, they're terrified. And that's the other thing, too. That's the other thing. Okay. There's only one unit of there's only one elite halberd unit that actually has immune to psychology, and it also just so happens to be the one that I think is probably the most useful. Can anyone guess? Besides you who already know, so like Falcon, Arrow, Flying Taco. Can anyone say? Anyone know what unit I'm referring to that actually has immune to psychology and is an elite halberd? I would say there are most situations you never want to take one Phoenix Guard. So, anyone? Do you know? There is one elite halberd unit that's immune to psychology. Traded with Marauders and died. Exactly. Exactly. Blackguard! Yukisa. Yukisa's the first one. Congratulations. You get 1,000,000 stars. Blackguard. You all got it. Blackguard, which I believe, someone pointed this out the other day, and I believe it is true, that they actually have the most HP of any elf unit. or of any unit actually on the roster of the Dark Elves, which I didn't believe at first, but I think it might actually be true. Like, looking at all their monsters, the Hydra has 7,000 and regeneration, so technically, I mean, at the end of the day, that's going to give you, yeah, more HP. The Charybdis as well, slightly, but I mean, that's a lot of HP as well for a unit of elves, I should say. Let's compare that to other elven infantry units from other factions. I believe the Wood Elves don't have anyone that comes close to that. Let's see. I guess Wildwood Rangers are 6,000. 6,300, so they're close, but still, again, they get more HP. And then we look at High Elves. Phoenix Guard are probably, yeah, less. So they literally have the most HP of any elves, which makes them, you know, less terrible. Yeah, and of course, Phoenix Guard do get Alariel's healing, right? So they get a more effective HP. But guess what they don't have? Immune to Psychology. Oh, that's crazy. And also, their stats are worse. Like, just ignore Martial Mastery. Ignore it because it will be gone the first time you get hit by a Mammoth Charge. So ignore that. And then you look at their stats and realize that they actually have worse melee defense, worse weapon strength as well. Not only do they have lower health, they also lack immune to Psychology, and they also don't get the buff of Murderous Prowess. And that's the difference between High Elves and Dark Elves, is that Martial Prowess is a nerf. It's a faction-wide nerf once you get below 50% HP, whereas Murderous Prowess is a buff, right? In a lot of situations, most spaghetti, yeah. I mean, the physical resistance will, but not always. I mean, the higher melee defense makes a pretty big difference as well. And you get a little bit higher while Martial Mastery is active, but again, you get hit by like one Mammoth Charge in the side, and that Martial Mastery is probably going to go away. Yeah, I think Martial Prowess needs a rethink for sure. Just stand Alariel next to them. Yes, but Alariel's a caster. She is a pretty tanky caster. She's one of the tankiest casters in the game, to be honest, because of her melee defense. But, yeah, she will die. She can get sniped. Whereas you don't necessarily need anyone standing near the Black Guard. They just kind of have it already, right? And this is what I mean. They're the most, like, self-reliant, all-in... Because that's what I want from a halberd, is a self-reliant, all-in-one kind of unit that can hold its ground against most things in the game. And the Black Guard can do that. And they can also fight monsters better than any other halberd in the game without help, which is what I'm largely looking for, right? With the Dark Elves, what you can do is do like Word of Pain, right? If you're debuffing your opponent's melee attack, you're not necessarily going to be taking hits. There's other things you can do, certainly with your magic, to try and mitigate the damage that you're taking on your Black Guard. But, I mean, just the fact that they have better stats to begin with, and again, you don't have to have Alariel nearby. I don't know. I think Phoenix Guard, because I think I disagree. I don't know. I don't like Phoenix Guard very much. The lower weapon strength is too. Like, weapon strength is something that's super important when you're fighting monsters, and I mean, it's a pretty significant difference. 24 with 30. These guys have 24 with 30. So I guess, or yeah, looking at the wrong one here. Yeah, 20 and 25. So, I mean, it's just, they have more bonus versus large as well. I mean, the weapon strength, I don't know. Temple Guards, the thing about Temple Guards is your infantry selection with Lizardmen is somewhat limited. Temple Guards have a few other advantages that the Elf Halberds don't have. The biggest is their mass. Temple Guards are the heaviest, literally in terms of mass. They are the heaviest halberd unit in the game. They have lower armor than the other two, but they make up for it in the fact they have got a little bit of a shield. 35% isn't a ton, but it is something of a missile block chance. They also have pretty bad stats, though. I mean, 31 attack and 38 is not great. They have pretty heavy weapon strength. And just the fact that they, you know, what they are in the roster that they're in, more so than the Elves, they'll see use. Yeah, mass mass, and less cost, exactly. Only 1200 means they're a little bit easier to be cost effective. 1300 for the Dark Elves is a little bit easier to be cost effective. Once you get up to like 1500 for an infantry unit, you run into the problem of there's just so many things in the game that are good at killing armored infantry that once you go above like 1300, it's really hard to make a unit cost effective. Not that you can't, you certainly can, but it's going to be a lot trickier. I mean, Temple Guard are kind of right in that sweet spot, right? Same thing with like Chosen with shields. Anyway, we were talking about Chaos originally. We got way derailed there, but this kind of plays into the discussion about vampire counts as well. Some people had asked about vampire counts. I don't know about these factions specifically, but Chaos versus vampire counts is an interesting one. I haven't played this matchup in a while, to be honest, but from what I remember, let's see. Yeah, it's not infantry at all. I would agree with that in general. I would agree with that. Against vampire counts, again, I haven't played this matchup in a while, but just on paper, Giants, because there's no ranged damage for vampire counts that you have to worry about, their lack of armor and just general vulnerability to ranged fire is not going to be much of an issue, so I would probably start from a double Giant base, and then probably go with Kolek as my third monster, to give them more melee defense, and also to throw Lord of the Storm. He can also run around pretty fast. We'll leave Foe Seeker on him, actually. I'm tempted to take Star Crusher, but Spawns, that's exactly, yep, you knew where I was going. Spawns are really good in this matchup because they're unbreakable, so we're going to take 4 of them, and I probably will bring the Weird Spawn just for funsies, because they're a Regiment of Renown, and they're a spawn. And then from here, just take some Marauder Infantry, I think, maybe. And I want some Marauder Horsemen. This is really bad. I don't have a caster. We definitely want Lore of Fire here. I'm going to throw fireballs. Let's have probably Burning Head and Flaming Sword of Ruin. This build is so bad. Haven't played this matchup in a while. Did I mention? Yeah, I think I actually need some better infantry, but no mage army. Yeah, I know. You definitely need a caster, and I do have enough to take him on a horse, I guess. I don't know if I would necessarily want to. Maybe just take him on foot. Horse. Men. Yeah, this is pretty all in. I do feel really light on numbers, though. I think that's the main problem here, so I might honestly try and thin out a little bit. Archaon, 2 horse dudes, 2 Kolexes. Yeah, I mean, I guess I could if I were to swap Kolek out here. Archaon's actually pretty good in this matchup because he gives you a powerful Fighter Lord and Firecaster in one. So my problem with him is what spells do I take? Like, I want to take all 4 of these spells, and then he just gets so expensive. I mean, Crown of Domination is pretty good here. I don't know if I would take Slayer of Kings. It is a huge damage spike, but your opponent can just run away while it's active. Beast Chariot, I don't know about that. Shadow Magic for a huge damage increase on Giants and Kolek. Yeah, if you stack Star Crusher with... Like, if I were to go a little bit lighter on spawn here, maybe just take 2 spawn. And if we go back to Kolek, grab Star Crusher, come in here, grab Shadows. And we take, definitely cut Smoke and Mirrors. Worst lore attribute in the game, to be honest. And then take Enfeebling Foe, Pendulum, and we want Occam's Mind Razor. You stack that on Star Crusher while it's active. Kolek basically gets all the weapon strength in the world, and if he hits something, it will die. I mean, you still get a little bit of the problem that someone can just try and run away. At least Kolek's a little bit faster, but it's still, if they see that giant buff, you know, chain popping off, they can still just try to avoid that engagement until it's gone, and then you've wasted a ton of Winds of Magic. But you can do this, certainly, and Pendulum definitely gives you a lot of options for clearing chaff. You can come in here. I'd probably grab a couple more Horsemen, and then another Marauder, something like this. A little bit wider. We still have only the 2 spawn, but it's okay. Armor Sundering from the weird spawn will also help. We want to try and saturate them on high armor targets if there are any, and then throw the javelins at them if we need to. Spirit Leech nerfed, yeah, that's why Archaon's viable, exactly. Archaon, you still have to be careful not to get absolutely stepped on by something like a Blood Dragon. But, I mean, you can see if we combine the cost, it already is cheaper, and that's even with all the spells here. And we'd definitely be cutting some of the spells. Yeah, I don't know about Flaming Sword of Ruin. It's so good here, and Fireball is as well. I might cut Fireball, though, honestly, just to try and save a little bit on cost. Crown of Domination is definitely necessary. I don't know about Slayer of Kings, either. Man, I really wish Chaos had Banner of Eternal Flame. I really wish Chaos had Banner. Like, I can't tell you how bad I want the Exalted Hero to have that. Because if the Exalted Hero had Banner of Eternal Flame, I would absolutely come take one on foot and grab that and have him stand next to the Giants so that then every time I cast a Kindle Flame, they get a damage spike. That would be so good. Especially against Vampire Counts. That would be so good. But yeah, this is kind of the direction that I would go. You could do some different things here. Yeah, you could do a Sigvald. If you want to just take a Lord that's not going to get sniped and is going to be really cheap, you could take a Sigvald, and then that frees up your caster. I'd probably still go with Fire here. Cascading Fire Cloak is going to be really strong for the Giants also. It gives them extra AP damage and melee defense. I'd probably cut Fireball, keep Flaming Sword again to give that Kindle Flame bonus. And then that frees up a little bit more funds here. You could come in and actually grab like some decent infantry. Maybe some bad champions. I don't know. Probably still just get stepped on in terms of infantry, so maybe just go with like 1 unit of Chosen to hold the line. I don't know. Look at Krokgar. Yeah, he's okay. He's just he doesn't have a lot going for him, to be honest. He's just kind of a combat lord without a lot of support value. And really, what the Lizards need is that, I mean, especially when you can compare like Mazdamundi. I mean, the support value for Mazdamundi is off the charts. Yeah, you can't really outgrind. Something like this is, you just stick to the single entities, and, yeah, I mean, this, I guess, is a little bit of a grind army, which I don't know how well it would work, but the idea here is you just stick to your Giants, try and win through them, and I think that's really the way a lot of factions have to approach the Vampire Counts right now. I don't know, I just really like the Giants because their leadership is so good, and they have massive weapon strength in this matchup, so, like, as for Norsca, Chaos, Greenskins, Beastmen, all 4 of those factions, I would say Giants are good against Vampire Counts. Yeah, see, if you were to go super elite here, I would go something like this, probably. That feels pretty mouth breather to me, but this is something you can do. I don't know if this would be good. I have never tried this, but you know what? Actually, we could save a little bit of gold going with Mirror Guard on one of these. Then that gives us a line of very strong infantry. We have a little bit, not quite enough. If we came in here and downgraded these guys, we could get almost a full another unit of spawn. Oh, man. Sigvald, you don't need that, do you? No? Okay, we can grab another spawn. That's pretty mouth breather, and I would almost rather have the weird spawn for the Armor Sundering, especially considering we're going with Shielded Chosen. But Foot Archie. I guess Foot Archie might be cheaper than Sigvald, but I would just think in a grind fight like this, you might want Sigvald. Yeah, and because of single entity rules, in the banner rules at least, limited to 5 single entities. I mean, I guess we don't have that quite yet, so we could come in here and do this. Then... Would you really cut Flaming Sword, Taco? Good vampire counts playable lagoon and cycle charge the giants. They're going to try. The key is that you have to watch their charges. And you keep the giants next to each other and you kind of maneuver them in like a circular fashion as much as you can, so that like when the giant is charging one down, you move the other giant to the other side of where they're charging, so that they charge down in between the two giants. And then they both get attacks. One attacks in the back, one attacks from the front, right? And you just have to keep doing that every time they cycle charge down. Like, they will be able to get out sometimes, but at least if you have 3 single entities, you can make a triangle, and they usually can't get out, at least most of the time, if you position yourself correctly. It's certainly easier said than done, but because giants are kind of static, they're somewhat easier to position in that way. Like, they don't have really wild animations that reposition them a lot, so you can kind of get more done in that sense. But oh man, we're like 1 Marauder Horseman short. Sometimes the costing stuff on heroes drives me up the wall, but yeah, something like this, I could just cut evasion, and that would put us right on the money. You need Archaon if going chosen. Yeah, we could do this. Archaon, we're not gonna need that. We're just going to be standing around. Definitely want Crown of Domination. And then, yeah, I guess if we cut 1 spawn, then we can come in here and grab another Exalted Hero. This is, yeah, that's 5 single entities. That's fine. And then this is pretty mouth breather. I mean, these are all just kind of variations on the same idea. Oh man, we're so close to grabbing Slayer of Kings. That makes me sad. What we could do, though, is take out 1 spawn and grab 2 more horsemen. Skirmish. Or, you know, kind of play around with the costing a little bit there. Yeah, something like this. I don't know. Again, I haven't played this matchup in a while, so all of the builds I've shown, kind of variations, they might work. I don't know. You could try them, but this is, again, just kind of my thinking is like, you know, how do these units synergize together? How would we play this? Definitely play this very tight and in a box, but I've played similar builds before. Like I don't know when the game is going up. I think it might have gone up today. Maybe not. Maybe, I don't remember exactly, but I showed off a Greenskins build that was pretty mouth breather. No, I don't think it was today. Yeah, something like this. Similar idea where you just kind of monster spam and then take a tanky Footlord, just kind of run around with this little death box. Similar idea, right? Temple Guards and Chosen have the same mass. Yeah, there are more Temple Guard per unit, and they're cheaper, but you just don't see Chosen with halberds very much. And because of the animations and the fact that the actual unit models are bigger, like, I think it might say that technically in the game they're the same mass, but I think in practice it works a little bit differently. I don't know exactly. Yeah, so with the Greenskins, I mean, again, you can do something similar here. Depending on ROR limit, I might take that, and then, let's see, we definitely need a caster. I'm a big fan of the Night Goblin Shaman buffing up giants. Sneaky Stabbing's really good for them. Itchy Nuisance and Gorkle Fix-It are also good for catching and killing stuff. And then, yeah, maybe just take like 3 Wolf Riders. You can switch around some costs here. Take like Moon Howlers, Rider Riders, I don't know. Just some extra light cav to help run off Marauder Horsemen so that these Wolf Rider archers are safe. Vampire Pirates versus Dawi? I don't know. I think I want everyone to forget that that matchup exists. I don't know if I want to talk about that. Just kidding. No, it's pretty hard for the Pirates. One thing you can try and do is, like, Vanguard Rush with Sartosa. It's hard, but it can work. But people will know it's coming because you're going to pick Sartosa, right? So, I've shown this build off, I think, in a couple videos in the past, but... Oh, nope, not the Drowned. Pirates of Sartosa. So because these Sartosa Free Company have Vanguard and Anti-Infantry, and they have Perfect Vigor, I mean, granted, you're never going to have them last long enough to take advantage of that, but you can do something like this. Take a double Haunter, and then I would take the Pistol Admiral. Lore of Vampires, of course. We're going to take the Black Perept and the Opal Amulet. We'll definitely have the 3 Dance Macabre, Invocation, and Drowned Dead. Probably going to take, I usually call All Hands Way, to be honest. Hunger is nice to have, and Curse of Undeath I'll also have. We want the Crab Mount. And then Night Terrors. This is the direction that I would go. Something like this. This is very basic. I had to have to fine-tune this, but... This works a lot better against the Skaven, because the Dwarf armor, I mean, the Sartosan Free Company just don't trade great there. You really have to rely on the Mournguls on this one. And I mean, you do have, what, 6 units of Mournguls in total, but they're very squishy to missiles, and I don't know, it doesn't work as well as I want it to. Depending on the map, like, let's say you have a map that has interrupted line of sight, then you can take a gun build with Queen Bess and just, you know, park it behind something, because the Dwarfs don't have any mortar-type artillery, so you just force them to come to you, basically. Sirens in the matchup against Dwarves. Sirens have magic attacks, they have pretty low melee attack. They do have armor piercing damage, but that low melee attack and that magic attacks means their DPS is going to be so low. I just don't think it's worth it. I really don't think it's worth it. And the melee attack debuff as well, this Charmed. I mean, Dawi generally have low melee attack, so it's not like you're getting a lot of value from that Charmed debuff anyway. I just really don't. I don't see it. Yeah, exactly. You go, that's a good way of putting it. You go all in on one thing and then try and win from that one thing. So you can also try and outshoot the Dwarfs. This is a lot harder to do, but, I mean, you can try. I don't know. To be honest. You're probably going to get rushed down if you try something like this, but let's take Nocti Boy. Oh, we're on Pirates of Sartosa still. Yeah, I would go Coast. Nocti Boy. Always cut Smoke and Mirrors, it's useless. I mean, 12% speed isn't enough map-wide when you cast a spell to really be useful for anyone. Especially not when you're zombies. But yeah, like this, and then we definitely want the double gun crabs to refill ammo on whatever units that can survive. And then they can also act as blockers, potentially. And then we want hounds. And we have enough for 1 meat shield, and then we'll just summon more meat shields with Noctilus anywhere we need to. I don't know, Random Nicks. I mean, for me, like, it just doesn't seem like it's that good a value to debuff. I mean, I guess, maybe. It depends on what they're fighting, right? I guess a lot of your stuff doesn't have good stats anyway, so maybe it helps, but Yeah, exactly, Falcon. I would like a buff to Hammerers. I think Ironbreakers are fine where they're at, to be honest. I don't think they need any changes, but I think Hammerers do need more melee defense. But, yeah. What other matchups do people want me to talk about? Bretonnia versus Lizardmen. Oh, we can watch a replay for this one. Let me download it real quick. Oops, that's probably on screen for you guys. That's fine. So this one, this is the build that Hadris took against me, and I kind of like had an idea of what was coming. I didn't necessarily build the greatest counter build, but yeah. So yeah, 8 archers. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 archers. Got a couple of token cavalry units to help protect. Beast Slayers up front with some other polearms. I honestly would probably cut the polearms for veteran spearmen with shields, but that's just me. And yeah, I was a little bit prepared here. My idea was I'm going to shoot the archers with the solar engines, but I end up having to use... I'm not going to do a full cast of this right now because I plan to do it later on a specific video. But you can see here that I end up using the Tempest on Lewin. I have a high Slon, and I'm going to be throwing the Tempest around at Lewin and the Pegasus, but I end up having to use the solar engines against them a lot and not against the archers. I did get a pretty good banishment there, but it also wasn't the best RNG in the world. But yeah, see, I kind of start to push forward a little bit here, which I honestly probably should have done sooner. But the mass archer thing does work well enough just through sheer volume of fire. I mean, peasants have pretty good AP values. It's 4 AP, 3 AP per shot, which considering the cost is actually pretty cost effective when you have enough volume again. And I mean, again, Temple Guard, they don't have that much missile block chance. Only 85 armor is not amazing for an elite halberd unit. So they definitely get picked apart pretty quick there. And it's... I mean, it ends up being a very, very close game, certainly. It just barely works, and I think from my side playing as the Lizardmen, as I did in this match, if I had done a couple things differently, I probably could have won. I mean, you can see it's very, very close, but I think this is a way that you can try, certainly, and especially if your opponent's not prepared for it, like if they bring a very monster-centric build with no counter-skirmish tools pretty much whatsoever, then it works, but... You do have to be careful of Mazdamundi Ruination of Cities plus Banishment. I mean, I just had a regular Slon, so I only had Banishment, but if you factor in, you know, it's RNG dependent, of course, but if I had Ruination of Cities as well, not to mention Mazdamundi, of course, can be a monster in and of himself, so... Yeah, that's one way you can do Bretonnia against Lizardmen. It's very hard, and you can see, even in the late game, Hadris is having to play very, very well doing cycle charging and, you know, making sure he gets rear attacks, side attacks, feed his peasants like one at a time. It's very difficult. I think, yeah, I would definitely recommend taking the poisons and the regular ones. The fire... Yeah, there's not really any reason to take the fire there, but if you look here, in the banner rule set, I think it has to be 4 and 4 of the different ones, so you could just do 4 of the regulars and 4 poisons. That's what I would probably do. I mean, I'm pretty sure that Lizardmen should have immunity to poison. I'm pretty sure that's a thing in the lore, but, I mean, obviously Lewin, with his goodies... And then I would probably forego the Pegasus Knights and just take 2 Questing Knights maybe. I'd actually probably maybe even go, because there's max 12 ranged units as well, so you could do 4 Yeoman Archers just to max out on the bow fire. And then Need some infantry. Probably get a couple of these guys. I don't have a caster again, so this build is worse because I have less things to protect my archers. But what kind of a caster would I do here? Probably something with summons, honestly, because I don't have a lot that I need to heal necessarily. Probably just Flock of Doom and summons to do some additional damage, and yeah, this is horrible. Something like this. I'm just my own modification, but if I'm going all in on the bows, might as well go all in on it. I do feel that there's a major lack of protection here, so you would definitely probably be better off in taking more like traditional cavalry and stuff, like coming in here and grabbing like 2 Knights of the Realm to help protect. This would probably actually be more competitive, but I don't know. If you want to go full kite, you could try, I guess. Beastmen versus Lizards, we can talk about that one. So this goes back to the double giant thing. This is one way. This isn't necessarily the only way. We'll talk about a couple different things, but the double giant or single giant is the way to go. The thing about you have to worry about Lizardmen is then how do you protect these from pterodons and chameleon skinks, right? Because that's going to be the main danger for them. These guys will win you the monster fight in the right situation, but we definitely want to take Morgur just because the spawn summons are so good. I oftentimes now, especially in matchups that are tilted, I'll just go all in on the summons. Because why not? Why not take a Cygor summon plus the summon here? This one I will keep Wildheart because it actually gives a little bit more Winds of Magic when we cast the Transformation of Khadon. And then, according to tournament rules, most of the time I think you can only have one of these. But if you can take both, you might as well take both. Get the extra Winds of Magic and try and get all 4 summons if you can. And then from here, we need some counter skirmish tools. So you have some hounds. I don't know if you necessarily even need the poison hounds. Maybe. I don't know. Take some Ungor Spearman herds. Just get some stuff to kind of go around the periphery and support. Actually, Harpies might not be a bad idea here as well to chase down skirmish and to help chase down pterodons and stuff. I don't know. I don't know if this would work at all, but something like this I might try. Yeah, that's another way. You can go more mobile for sure. Another thing you can try to do, I've done this in some matchups. I have not tried this against the Lizardmen yet, but if you go with a monstrous infantry, like kind of all-in monstrous infantry build, you take like maybe 2 Minos with great weapons, 3 Chaos Spawn, again, obviously Morkur, and yeah, we'll just keep the same Heroic Core actually, just all the summons, again. You don't necessarily have to do this mass summon thing all the time. It's just against the Lizardmen or against other like monster matchups that are very hard for the Beastmen, or at least perceived to be difficult. I think it's definitely a way to go, just to give you more stuff. As much stuff as you can get, basically. This feels a little bit light on the mobility side. So maybe we take some regular Centaurs and some hounds. I don't know. Or you could take pigs. Pigs are also quite good. And take a couple hounds. Something like this, I actually think this might be an okay build. I don't have any terror except the summons, which is might be a problem. And you also don't really have any attack buffs for the Minotaurs with great weapons, but the idea here is you just have so much stuff to deal with that the Lizardmen are going to have, especially if you have the hounds supporting the Razorgore herds out on the periphery. You know, they're going to have to allocate resources to deal with that, and then that kind of leaves your Minotaurs a little bit freer. This build is going to be very vulnerable to pterodons, though, because you really don't have anything to protect from pterodons whatsoever. So you need to just rush to get in as quickly as possible, but Yeah, I guess if you're expecting a blob, but I feel like with this, with the Minotaurs, with great weapons and the summons and stuff, I have the ability to fight a blob fight decently well. And I guess if we're really just worried about pterodons and chameleon skinks both, like this will take out chameleon skinks but not pterodons, so you might want to rethink that a little bit. But the problem with throwing axes is, with Lizardmen healing, you often just straight up don't have enough ammo. You just can't do enough damage, just straight up, to kill their monsters with the throwing axes. So if you're relying on that, it can be tricky. Especially once you start losing models to things like solar engines, or, if you start getting picked away at by pterodons or whatever, like, if you lose too much ammo, you just won't have enough. You lose too many models, I should say. You just won't have enough ammo. Yeah, see, and something like this is well balanced enough that if the lizards don't go on monster spam, like, you can still kind of fight them in the wide game. Like, Hounds supporting Razorgore Herd will trade pretty well with, like, Cold One Spear Riders, Cold One Riders. You can have the Minotaurs out to the flanks supporting that engagement as well, with the Spawns supporting the infantry fight, and then obviously summoning more summons for the infantry fight, but... And I think to make this build better, in my opinion, you guys know I'm a big fan of the Minotaurs with shields, so I'd probably come in here and even actually, if you could figure out a way to get the Regiment of Renown in here, how many points would we need? Like 200 points? I think that's maybe worth cutting one of these guys down, honestly. Come in here and grab a couple more, just unshielded Ungor Spearman Herd. That way we get the Butchers of Kalkengard. They have a little bit of terror and regeneration as well. And again, the missile block chance and extra melee defense, I think, makes the shielded Minotaurs a little bit better. I guess you could go like sword and axe. Like a shield and axe. Like one shield on one side, one great weapon on the other side. You have like your push flank and your hold flank, right? But Troglodon, yes. Absolutely. So yeah, that's Beastmen. Let's see. What else? Talk about. Ancient salamanders. Okay, so this is a fun comparison. What's wrong with ancient salamanders? It's very, very simple. They have the lowest HP of any single entity monster in the entire game. For comparison, where is it? Missile monsters and beasts. It's not even on the missile monsters and beasts. That seems like a mischaracterization, considering it has a missile attack. But let's have a look here. 3,100 HP, and the runner-up is 3,400 HP for the Great Eagle. So yep, confirmed. Ancient Salamander has the lowest health of any single entity monster in the entire game. That's what's wrong with it. 3,000 HP, that's it. That's it. In fact, let's compare it to a corpse cart, just for fun. My favorite unit. Just kidding. Yeah, even corpse carts, I mean, they have regeneration as well, so for 250 points, your corpse cart will be much, much more survivable than the Ancient Salamander. I mean, yeah, lower armor, but really, HP matters so much. Matters so, so much. How much is Medusa? I think the Medusa is more, I'm pretty sure. Pretty sure. I guess it's new, though, so... Yeah, 1,100 more. 4,800, so yes. Or, sorry, no, we're looking at the wrong one. It's even better. Yeah, 1,600 more HP, only. Oh, sorry, gyro bombers. Yes, you're right. Gyro bombers If we go over to Dwarfs, I believe actually do have lower HP. I forget. My apologies to the bomber crews, who only have 2,000 HP. Yep, you're right. Gyro Bomber technically has lower as a single entity. I could see the Thunder Lizard being added as a map, but not as a unit. Like, I think it would be cool if you could fight on the back of a Thunder Lizard. Like, if there was like a quest battle that took place on the back of a Thunder Lizard, that would be cool. But as a unit, no. Like, I'm sorry. Yeah, Dread Saurian is already overkill. I agree with that. Yep, or maybe as like a campaign mechanic, like instead of getting, you know, Skaven nukes, you can just call in a Thunder Lizard and it literally just destroys, like razes the enemy city immediately or something. I don't know, you know. Yeah, for me personally, I would have maybe rather had the Troglodon than the Dread Saurian, honestly. Don't get me wrong, I love the Dread Saurian. Big fan. We're very glad it's the game, but I think I would have rather had the Troglodon, to be honest. Thunder Lizard baby. Oh, you mean the Thunderous one? I mean, I don't think we're getting the Thunder Lizard because we already have the Thunderous one, which is kind of like a Thunder Lizard. It's not the Thunder Lizard, but it is a Thunder Lizard, technically. Yes? Yes? Cool. Yeah, I think any other matchups anyone else wanted to see? I think I covered all of them. Maybe I missed a few here, but in general, people wanted to know how to fight vampire counts. It's a good question. Oh yeah, you already know. I got those mad dad jokes for days. So maybe we can get some games going, yeah? I think I'm going to take a break for a minute. I'll end the stream, and then I'm going to restart with a new stream, and I'm going to see if I can wrangle some players together for maybe like a best of 5 or something. Maybe we can do like a King of the Hill. I don't know. We'll figure something out. I'll be back in a little bit, but I think that's it for the theory crafting stream. So a little bit of insider knowledge today. I'm planning on doing this more often. Maybe we'll make this a weekly thing on Monday mornings. Just do Q&A stream. So if you guys have multiplayer questions, you want to know about specific matchups, units, whatever. Yeah, I've enjoyed this quite a bit. So, oh, you guys got a few more matchups here. Beastmen versus Norsca, Elves versus Dark Elves, or Empire. Empire versus Dark Elves. Oh, there's no changes for the beta in multiplayer, so yeah. Yeah, there's no changes. So for multiplayer streams, it will always be on the base game, unless there are actual changes, which right now in the Proving Ground, I do not believe there are, unless I'm wrong, but yeah. Yep. Empire versus Dark Elves is an interesting matchup. We can talk about this one briefly. Volkmar is definitely the way to go here for Empire. There's no question in my mind now, after having played this matchup quite a bit, that Volkmar is an absolute powerhouse here. His buffs are super strong. Some people won't take these Benediction and Divine Power, especially Divine Power, only 25% miscast chance. Based on some testing that I did at one point, the miscast chance buffs and debuffs don't actually seem to be that impactful. So, I mean, Benediction for +8 leadership, I might grab that if I have the points, but we'll come back and think about that in just a minute. Knights of the Blazing Sun will want like 2 to 3 of them. Let's grab a unit of Faith Demis, and we'll get a Witch Hunter. I mean, this is basically the build that I brought against Hadriz, right? That did decently well for me. Definitely want Banner of Eternal Flame, so we've got Fire Demis. Obviously, Lore of Fire Caster. I think I actually had him on foot. Just potentially dangerous, but... and then had some State Troops, bunch of Pistoliers. It was something like that. I might be a little bit off, but basically the idea here is the veteran state troops, the extra melee defense helps them hold a lot longer against elf units in the attack, and basically the idea is you want to attack the elves. A lot of people, and this is 100% my own paradigm about the Empire, and coming from my own personal bias and my style as a player. But I tend to play a lot more attack-oriented Empire rather than, like, missile defense. I see a lot of Empire players trying to go for the missile defense route, and that works in certain matchups. In fact, it's the only way to go in a couple of matchups. But in general, the Empire, in my opinion, you get a lot more benefit from playing offensively because of the prayer buffs being so strong. The fact that Grand Hammer of Sigmar and Hammer of Sigmar, you get these defense buffs as well. You've got Soulfire, which is kind of like a melee range, bombardment spell. You get a lot of value from that potentially. Another thing here that is, again, kind of the thinking is charge bonus, right? Elves have low HP generally, so looking at Knights of the Blazing Sun or anything in general with high charge bonus, the more shock damage you do to elves, because they have low HP, you can get rid of them very quickly. I mean, you can win in an instant almost. So especially with a high charge bonus, you pop something like a Cascading Fire Cloak wherever. Get that Kindle Flame, you get a little bit of a damage boost on this. You think about 45 models hitting all for well over 100 melee attack. Well over 100 melee attack, well over 100 weapon strength with that damage spike from Kindle Flame, that 22%. I mean, it gets really, really out of control very quickly, and the elves just don't really have the HP to stand up to that. I mean, not to mention you've got, again, all these bunker buster kind of magic AoE effects. Pistoliers have very high DPS against low armor units, which the Dark Elves tend to have a lot of low armor, high value units. Not necessarily always. Sometimes they'll go heavy in this matchup. Obviously, they have like Cold One Knights and stuff that are relatively heavy armor, but you think about like Witch Elves, Sisters of Slaughter, not necessarily uncommon here. Doomfire Warlocks, even like Dark Riders, all have low armor, just will get blasted by Pistoliers. So that's kind of the thinking there. I could one start, but the thing about that is that would something like that for me to do it, I'm a bit of a perfectionist, so it would take me a long time to do, and it would probably be out of date relatively quickly. So for me, the sunk cost in terms of time versus payoff for that is not great, which is why I think doing a live stream, like a weekly live stream format like this, might be a little bit better. Just because then I can kind of share like my updated thoughts, because it literally changes all the time. So, yeah. Avalanche mortars. Avalanche mortars. They're still garbage, I think. I don't think they've been fixed. Yeah, cold ones. Yeah, that's the thing. Cold One Knights are very strong units. Like, if you take a face-up engagement, like with Empire Knights or Reichsguard, it's going to be bad, right? They have good charge bonus. 44 is pretty decent. They have anti-large armor piercing, pretty heavy weapon strength, but exactly, only 4,000 HP is pretty low, so they fall apart pretty quick. I mean, even like mass pistolier fire can take them apart pretty quick due to their lack of missile block. I said lack of missile block. Granted, they do have missile block, but still. Yeah. Yeah, I can one start. Yeah, I'll start doing that more going forward. This one was just kind of a general, trying out the format and also having people talk about specific matchups, and just kind of a generally like how I think about my armies, right? Yeah. Yeah, again, I have a little bit of an offensive bias towards Empire, but like a lot of matchups, I think you want to countercharge someone. You have a lot of units with high charge. You can get a lot of value from that, from Kindle Flame, from your attack buffs in melee. It's just the Empire is a very charge-oriented faction. If you or at least you can play them that way. You can definitely play them the missile defense style as well. The infantry is not really good enough to play infantry rush in most cases, although there are certain situations where you definitely can. Like, I'm not the biggest fan of flagellants, but again, this is one matchup where there's an argument to be made, certainly, where they can be useful in certain situations. They'll just get shredded pretty hard by certain Dark Elf infantry. Tattersouls, at the very least, have some extra unit models, so they can do okay, but... Yeah, and eventually I want to start doing this, like, today I didn't really have time to prepare, but, and like, Falcon, Arrow, these guys have been in chat participating anyway, so that's great, but, in future live streams like this as well, like, I would love to get them actually in on voice chat, because, like, Falcon, for example, has a little bit different of way of thinking about armies, right? So maybe one day on stream, like, we'll literally just watch him on Discord, like through a Discord stream, right? And like he'll build the armies and kind of talk through how he does it while I ask him questions. Yeah, because that's one other thing too, is like different high-level players have different ways of thinking about things, right? But like for for example, like thinking about this army, I have the tools to kill Malekith. Like the Demigryph Knights with the Warrior Priest can kill Malekith, no problem. Morathi will get lit up by Pistoliers. I can kill Sisters of Slaughter, Doomfire Warlocks, any other light units with the Pistoliers. On the charge, I'll win very hard with the right buffs, kind of activating with Kindle Flame and everything. Even just face charging into Cold One Knights because of my higher numbers and charge bonus and the Kindle Flame. Not to mention the magic resistance for Knights of the Blazing Sun is very helpful versus Doomfire Warlocks or Soul Stealer, both of which are applicable here, right? So it's just kind of looking for those hidden things, and it takes a lot of time to kind of learn those different interactions, but once you learn the general characteristics of a faction, like, for example, that Dark Elves, have some magic damage, they have a lot of low armor, high value targets, but they still have some high armor targets, they have a very powerful lord, like Malekith is someone you have to account for, whoever you're playing against the Dark Elves, like, you have to account for them possibly bringing Malekith. You need to make sure you have the tools to take him down. Same thing with Morathi. Morathi's a very common pick, a very strong pick. You have to account for that as well. The tools that you would have to take them down will also give you the tools to take down, like Lokir on a dragon, for example. Malice is a little bit of a different story, but honestly, he's not super competitive, and, depending on the matchup, he definitely is a menace to Cav Blobs for sure, but, yeah. Again, that's just kind of my thinking, is like, what units do I need to potentially beat here? What tools do I need to beat them? Like, how am I going to protect those tools? Looking for specific synergies as well. Like with the charge bonus charge bonus with Kindle Flame, or, Banner of Eternal Flame, or whatever. Yeah, Blazing Sun's delete Cold One Knights from a Kindle Flame charge, for sure. And especially, you can even buff one of the units' melee defense with that Cascading Fire Cloak, right? A little bit of extra melee defense, and, Knights of the Blazing Sun don't have amazing melee defense to begin with, so that is definitely a good play for them, right? Yeah. Yeah, for sure, one start, for sure. And especially people who have very different playstyles from my own. Like, I try and learn all the playstyles. I'm not as good with the missile defense, I'm not gonna lie, just because my targeting priority isn't always up to snuff. Like, that's not something I practice super often. I play a lot more melee rush builds, but... yeah. That's pretty much it in terms of this from the Empire side. From the Dark Elves side, you can do some different things. You can try and play from Bolt Throwers, which is pretty surprising. You know, 2 bolt throwers, if the Empire's not prepared for it, you can kind of draw them in and consistently pick away at their cavalry. You do want Cold One Knights, but in my opinion, you need to use them defensively and try and countercharge the Empire Knights when they're trying to get into your lines. Yeah, Dread Spears are okay here as kind of like a main line. Malekith is pretty decent. You could try the Marathi Foot debuff blob. I don't think that would work very well against the Empire because of their missiles, but yeah, I'm not a Dark Elf expert by any means, so maybe Felcon could share a build in the chat there. But something like this, I've actually in the past done something really wild, which was 4 bolt throwers, 4 Cold One Knights, 4 spearmen, and then I think I had Malekith. Is he on a cold one or on a dragon? He might have been on a dragon, or he might have just been on a cold one. Or I might have honestly had Marathi on foot, actually, hiding in the woods somewhere. And then I just had her with a pretty minimum kit. Like, not even the debuffs, mostly just to throw Soul Stealer. Maybe it was something like this, and then from there, you could potentially take some other skirmish tools, just to kind of keep your opponent occupied. Maybe take some Dark Riders to run around and be annoying. At this current junction, you could absolutely take as well a couple of Scourge Runner Chariots. I don't know if this would work at all. You could definitely try. I haven't tried it. This was back like when the Dark Elves got their first DLC. I was trying something like this, but yeah, absolutely, Livid. Absolutely. I was gonna end it relatively soon, but we can keep it going. Yeah, see, a lot of people like the crossbow riders. I just can't seem to use them very well, personally. Like, I see other people use them well, but I'm just not a fan, personally. But something like this, like, having to defend 4 bolt throwers is going to be hard, but at the same time, like, you know, you have a lot of stuff to defend. Like, your whole build is about defending the bolt throwers and just using them to kill your opponent's heavy cavalry, right? Yeah, I agree. It's definitely a strange one, but yeah, exactly. That's how you have to think about them, is they're not necessarily skirmish cav, they're more mounted dark shards, exactly. So, like, you still use them behind your main line, it's just then once your main line inevitably gets compromised, then you run away. And you could run this build with that, absolutely. Just come in here and literally just replace the bolt throwers with dark riders with crossbows. This is a build. I have not tried this build, but it theoretically should work. I don't see why it wouldn't work. No 360 shooting does hurt them. I agree. Definitely agree, but yeah. Again, you use them you don't use them like skirmish cav. You use them like mounted foot skirmishers, if that makes sense. Yeah, they do have really strong AP. Yeah, they do a lot of missile damage for sure. Yes, exactly. Outriders are very similar in terms of usage. They can fire while moving, and they do have a little bit of a better arc. Doesn't really come into practice a lot of the time, but they're pretty good. Pistoliers are more like they're more like Gobble Wolf Rider archers, but better, to be honest. Gobble Wolf Rider archers actually have pretty good volume of fire because they have 60 unit models. They do a lot less damage, but let's be honest, Pistoliers are in a class of their own right now. Like 37 missile damage on a skirmish cav. I think that's the most besides Throwing Axe cav. I think Throwing Axe cav might have more missile damage, but maybe not. 30? Only 30? Over 10 seconds, like in total, so I think they are the highest DPS cav. What about Centaurs with throwing axes? They do more? 31? No, it's less. More DPS. The Javelins, actually, that's a good point. The Javelins might do the same? No, I think they're the same. Yeah, 27, yeah. 36 for the Marauder Horse Masters, but even still, that's less over 10 seconds than the Pistoliers. Man, Pistoliers have the best DPS of any skirmish cav in the game. That's so good. That's so good. That's why they're the best. That's why I'm such a fan. Horse Masters, yeah. Yeah, they're literally one less over 10 seconds. I mean, they have more individual missile damage, but yeah, see, 26 individual. This one is 15 individual, but of course they shoot two shots, so it's actually 30. So it's actually higher. Yeah. Because of the 2 shot, that's what makes it so good. 2 aimed shots. Plus they look awesome. Maybe grenade launchers? Well, yeah, technically grenade launchers probably do more missile damage, but yeah, 67. But they also only have 36 models, right? Rather than 45, so it's too bad the Noble Sons Abroad are not legal. They have even more missile damage. Is it just faster fire rate, or no, they actually have more missile damage? Actually just have more missile damage. More of everything. They're just better Pistoliers, to be honest. Hey, what's up, Lore Master of Sotek? I'm just giving a knowledge Q&A stream, along with Felcon and some others here. Trying to give all the secrets of the multiplayers. I figure rather than making a guide, because the guide will change all the time, I should just do like a once a week Q&A live stream for multiplayer. So I think that's Empire. I guess we could talk about Norsca a little bit too. I think somebody wanted me to talk about Norsca. So Norsca, you take Wulfric, and you depending on the matchup, you take a different mount for him, but you take Wulfric pretty much always, because the other 2 lords don't exist. Let's see. Mammoths are very good, Skinwolves are very good, Hounds are very good. Like, you can go very wide and mobile, like if you do something like this. Keep in mind also Seafang does give Frostbite. Let's go with a Fireboy, Famir Boy, Sadmir. Let's do Pendulum, Enfeebling Foe, and probably Melkos, to be honest. We're going to go super wide and mobile here. This is not very good, but this is something that you can do. Da, 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 da. 39 gold short. That's really annoying. Oh, we definitely need to cut. Well, I don't know, actually. With this build, it might be nice to have that smoke and mirrors, to be honest. Don't really want to cut anything else, though. Yeah, this is not a very good build, but it is a very mobile build. To make this a little bit better, you could cut a couple things and take, like, 2 units of Marauders just to give you some infantry. I don't even know. Grog in a matchup where he's not going to get sniped, which is not a lot of matchups, to be honest. Most matchups he'll end up getting sniped, but what's a good Vlad army? We'll get there in just a second. That's a good question. You think so? You think the unarmored are better than the armored? They're probably more cost effective, to be honest. And in a situation like this where we're trying to get some extra numbers here, yeah, I could see that. Save a little bit on points there. We definitely still want the Maws of Savagery because for their eliteness and their actual armor piercing. But yeah. Have enough to buy Foe Seeker, and there's a 0 build. So feel free to everyone to copy this build. Just give me credit. That's the build you lost with in the Everchosen. Why use infantry? Yeah, see, this is a way that Norsca can go. A lot of people say that Norsca's vulnerable to getting kited, and I just don't see it. Against a build like this, like if somebody tries to kite you, yeah, in fact, I might actually save this army. That's a good army. That's I don't know if it's actually a good army, but it's an army. What else? Norsca, you can do some different things. Obviously, Famir. Berserkers are probably the best dual hand weapon infantry in the game. Like, they're the best DPS infantry in the game, in my opinion. You can do something like this. Wolfric on a Mammoth. This is for maybe, like, Tomb Kings, actually. No, I'd probably take him on a horse. Floor of Fire. Fire Cloak. Fire Sword. Burning Head. We want some Famir, definitely. ROR Famir, maybe get another one there. Or you could, if you want to have something to chase down the Shop to Great Bows, Maws of Savagery are also pretty good for that. Take a couple of extra Marauders just to have some more numbers to fight skeletons. Let's get some Horsemen. Something like this against Norsca might be okay. Or against Tomb Kings. Yeah, Berserkers are very cost-effective. They can be, for sure. Oh, here we go. Here we go, Lore Master. Coming in with the hot questions. Let's hear it. Let's hear what you got. As I get a million notifications. Must be HW's tournament day. Throg here? You really think Throg here? I mean, I guess kitting him down, he's not really that much. I could fit him in here, absolutely. Kitted down. I might want the Vomit, but I think Ancient Croc scores are already way more competitive than Nikai, first of all, Lore Master of Sotek. They're already, like, miles better than Nikai. That's mostly just because they're cheaper. And they're actually kind of competitive. Personally, though, I do think they would be way better as heroes. I think that they would actually fill a really good role as heroes, because right now you don't have a cheap, like, fighter hero option that's anti-infantry, right? So if we actually have a look here, your only fighter hero that's cheap-ish is the Scarvet, right? And he's anti-large. He's not anti-infantry. So I think absolutely having like a cheaper anti-infantry brawler character would be awesome, especially for how kitted down he would be, or even better if he kept his support abilities, because then you would have a proper support hero. They really don't. I mean, the Saurus Scar Veteran doesn't have any support items. Plaque of Domination, kind of, but I wouldn't really consider that a support item. The Skink Chief, same thing. I mean, I guess this War Drum of Zahotek is a little bit of a speed and charge bonus buff, but it's very, very minor. I mean, 4% charge bonus is going to be like one charge bonus for almost all units in the game, if that. So I think, especially considering his support abilities, I think he'd be awesome to have as a hero for sure. give you a hero level Horn of Kygor, I would be all about that, for sure. Yeah, dwarfs need some kind of slow. I will say, if they give dwarfs back Tormentor Sword, then I'm all for removing the speed and changing Rune of Wrath and Ruin back to damage. But, yeah. Yeah, I think they need some kind of slow to be able to make their missiles effective. And so considering that the dwarfs' killing power is primarily in their missiles, yeah, if they were to give Tormentor Sword back or to give some other kind of slowing ability, like, you know what? If they gave, there's an item in campaign for the dwarfs. I might honestly boot up a dwarf campaign right now just to show you guys.
We must preserve this
Let's do this. Let's do this. Because there's an item I'm thinking of, and I want to make sure I get it right here, that would be really good to add for the dwarves. Honestly, like, just retooling the items, if they had, again, more stuff for slows, like, you could give them Tormentor Sword again, that's a little boring, but I would be all for that if they had another slow. Like, the dwarfs need some kind of slow or snare, like, they need it. Yes, oh my god. Do you know how strong the oil flask would be for the dwarves, considering blasting charges do fire damage? And that's an easy synergy, because at short range is when you would be throwing the oil flask anyway. I would be all for that for the engineers, 100%. I'd be super down. I would be even more down for the engineers to get a gyrocopter mount, but I know that's kind of beating a dead horse. But anyway, okay, yes, get out of my face. Okay, so, rune crafting. There's a weapon here I'm thinking of. So any of these awesome kind of high-tier weapons would be super cool to add. This is the one I'm thinking of, though, the Gatekeeper's Hammer that gives Chilling Aura and Frostbite. So if they gave this to the dwarves, I'd be totally fine, 100% with them removing the Rune of Wrath and Ruin speed. I actually think this item would just be awesome to have for the dwarves, especially like for the Dwarf Lord. But Frostbite attacks plus Chilling Aura, it would be so good, so good for the dwarves. Yeah, I think a unit like Grinders, that would be awesome as well, for sure, that have a hard snare as an ability. 100% would buy that in a DLC. What other cool items here? I think someone already has this Iron Warden's Hammer, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's what the Thane has, is he has this one for the Perfect Vigor, or sorry, not the Thane, the Lord. But I think, honestly, he needs the Gatekeeper's Hammer. Or you can give this to the Thane. Let's see, what else? What else is cool? Causes terror. Star Metal Plate. Seems pretty good. These conditional, like, leadership or health lower than 50%, I'm not a big fan of. But liquid fortification. Hey, can we give Iron Warden's Tankard to someone? Have a regenerating Dwarf Lord, maybe? Just kidding. That sounds terrible. Scepter of Stone. You could give him the Assault of Stone, basically, but better. That's not really a slow, but... Ancestral Spirit. Oh my god, I totally forgot that this item was a thing. Can we have this one too? Yeah, I think if you were to give that chilling aura weapon, that would definitely go a long way into helping that situation. This Horn of the Ancestors is cool. I just want this anyway. I'm not for slowing purposes, but just because that's cool. And I think that's the main thing. That was the item I was thinking of. Is this Gatekeeper's Hammer to give Frostbite and Chilling Aura in an AoE. I think if you gave that to a character, like even the Rune Lord, and removed the slow from Rune of Wrath and Ruin, then that'd be fine. But they need some kind of slow. They need some kind of slow. At least from a multiplayer standpoint. I would love Josef Bugman as the Legendary Lord. For me, considering that Dwarfs are the best shooting faction in the game, it seems really strange and wrong somehow that they don't have a Legendary Lord that has a missile attack. Like, none of their Legendary Lords have any kind of missile attacks. So I would love a ranged Legendary Lord, like Josef Bugman in his Ranger garb. Ready to rock. This crossbow. I'm assuming he uses a crossbow. I actually don't know. I'm sure Lore Master can fill us in. I don't know if he should be able to heal units. I don't know if that's good, but... Yeah, you could give it to the Thane, you could give it to the Rune Lord, you could give it to the Rune Smith. I mean, any of the characters, to be honest. But I think on a Lord level character, it would make a bit more sense, for sure. But where are the Dwarfs? Dwarfs. Here we go. Yeah, no, not Belgar. The Rune Lord's items are already pretty good. I don't know, yeah. Kind of just more resistances stuff, but... I mean, the Lord has this Star Metal plate, which is pretty good. It's not amazing, considering you already have good melee defense across the board, so it's actually not that great, but... this Iron Warden's Hammer, I think, the Perfect Vigor is nice, but if you were to have instead... that Slowing Aura, that'd be much better. Much, much better. Oh, what's Bugman's, Josef Bugman's loadout, Lore Master of Sotek? Like, how would he function in game? Like, from what I understand, he's like a Ranger Legendary Lord, right? But am I wrong about that? Or, yeah, Bugman does have a crossbow. Okay, okay. That's what I was thinking, yeah. And again, for me, the Dwarfs not having a ranged Legendary Lord, considering they are the best shooting faction in the game, like, there's no question, the best shooting faction in the game, it seems like a travesty. Being able to heal characters. See, I would be fine with him being able to heal characters, just not units. That's totally fine. And him also having Vanguard, like, oh my god, for the Dwarfs to have a Lord with Vanguard so that I could properly pull off a massive Vanguard with Miners and Rangers, because people already do that, to be honest. Do something like... And I know on ladder, Miners with Blasting Charges count as ranged units, which is really dumb. But, like, people already do something like this, right? But if you could have Josef Bugman in the Vanguard with all of these guys, like, oh, that'd be so cool! That would be so cool! A Ranger who can heal. Okay, so he might be a decent, like, hybrid melee missile character with some heals and Vanguard. He sounds like he'd be really competitive, honestly. Like, can we please get Bugman in the game? Like, please, CA? I would so 100% right now pay cash money for a Bugman DLC. I mean, Dwarfs already have character healing with Felix, so it's not like that's not something they already have. Right? With Felix, they already can heal their characters specifically, and as long as Bugman can only heal characters, that's fine. Has there been Bretonnia yet? We talked a little bit about mass Bretonnia bows already, yeah. Hadra's anti-Lizardmen build. But, oh, Lore Master, you're here. You're here. Let me ask you this, Lore Master of Sotek. Would it make sense... I don't know about in the army books, but from a lore perspective, would it make sense for them to give Bretonnia Lore of Light? Because from my perspective, from a multiplayer balance perspective, having Lore of Light for Bretonnia would be so good. Being able to net something and then multi-charge it, or even better, have a giant Cav Blob and cast a huge Barona's Time Warp on like all of this giant Cav Blob to give him extra speed and melee attack. Okay, so AoE immune to psychology, I'm about that. Interesting. Yes, Den Bond. It will be saved. Yep, I'll even save it to my guides playlist. So, yep. Just waiting on the delay there for Lore Master to answer. But yeah, for me, it doesn't seem like it would be that big of a change, but to give Bretonnia Lore of Light would be, I think, would be super helpful. In terms of what else they could do to help Bretonnia, just because Bretonnia is in trouble right now, honestly, Grail Knights need a buff. They need an AP buff, I think. Their AP values are just not good enough. I also think they need a melee defense buff, potentially, to like 34 melee defense. Yeah, see, it makes sense to me, especially considering the Fey Enchantress is always yelling about Light of the Lady. The only faction to make use of Light of Battle, and not only that, but the lore attribute to what they've changed it to be now, which I'm a huge fan of personally. The new lore attribute for Lore of Light would be so good for Bretonnia. AoE, or sorry, map-wide, immune to psychology, even for if it's only for 8 seconds, 11 seconds. That's going to be so good for your giant mob of peasants. Well, Lore Master of Sotek, can we bend it, please? Because this would be so good for Bretonnia, and, I mean, if we just talk about the Light of the Lady, and let's say there's a really smart prophetess who's very analytical and just so happens to figure out, because she's that brilliant at math, I don't know. I could justify it to myself, and I'd be fine with them having Lore of Light, but considering Bretonnia has the weakest magic selection, one of the weakest magic selections in the game, they have 3 common lores, and I mean, granted, they have the best common lore in Lore of Life, the second best in Lore of Beasts. They actually, fire might be second best, actually. They don't have fire, they don't have shadows, they don't have metal, they don't have light. But squires with halberds, I mean, yeah, if they made the Beast Slayers a Bastion, if you could take as many as you wanted, that'd be awesome. That would solve a lot of problems. Yeah, I mean, hey, the Fey Enchantress has been kidnapping the Bretonnian boy wizards for a long time, right? So, what if they just reappeared as Lore of Light casters? I don't know. I think Bretonnia needs something more. They're, like, even with Rapunzel, with Henri, with Gotrek and Felix, like, they still just struggle so hard in so many situations. And I think, yeah, having Lore of Light honestly would be a huge help. And even for, like, mass peasant bows, could you imagine netting a Dread Saurian and then shooting it with 8 peasant bows? Like, that's gonna do damage. I see. Interesting. That seems weird. Seems very strange. I mean, I kind of get it, but at the same time, like, yeah. Yeah, Bretonnia needs AoE spells. That, 100% agree. I mean, you have Lore of, what I really wish, honestly, was that Heavens was not so reliant on Wind Blast. Uranin's Thunderbolt needs to be better. Like, Uranin's Thunderbolt should be just as good as Warp Lightning, in my opinion. And Warp Lightning is objectively much better. It does more damage, and I think it's cheaper as well. We have a look here. Oh, wrong one. Warp Lightning is 6 Winds of Magic, so I guess it's the same. And I don't know about the damage, but it seems like in testing it does less damage. But these two should literally be like the same spell, basically. And, I mean, I think it even costs more, 122 for Uranin's Thunderbolt. And it's less, obviously, considering, yeah, only 105 for Warp Lightning. So you're paying more for a spell that does less damage. And I think, honestly, if that was better, that would help a ton. If Comet had a faster cast time, that would help a ton. Because the Comet has such a long wind-up time that it's very easy to dodge, right? So if you just reduce the cast time on this, that would be very helpful. I think Chain Lightning is already pretty decent, but... It would be cool. I would not be opposed to adding Lore of Fire to the Chevaliers de Lyonesse faction specifically. Like, if you could get... and I was actually thinking about possibly reaching out to a mod maker for something like this. I think it'd be super cool if you could get Crusading Empire orders as the Chevaliers. Like, you actually, like, call upon the Knightly Orders of the Empire to come join your crusade. And you get, like... You can maybe get, like, Knights of the Blazing Sun or Empire Knights. Exactly, Lore Master of Sotek. They need to just update Lore of Heavens across the board. Like, they need to redo all of the spells in terms of damage and speed, like cast times and everything. Windblast is still tier 1, but all of the other... Windblast is the only one of those. I mean, Chain Lightning, maybe, but... Yeah, oh, yeah, Heavens needs a major balance pass, just in general. And the lore attribute as well is one of the worst. I mean, if you're going up against flying units, you maybe want this, but... And it is good in very niche situations for that, but it's so niche that, like, 90% of the time you're going to cut it. But, yeah, Bretonnia. What else? Yeah, see, exactly, Lore Master of Sotek. Specifically Lore of Fire for Chevaliers, I would be so down for that. And again, you'd have to take this faction, so you couldn't take it with Lewin. You could take it with Henri, which would be super strong. But, and like I was saying with the Crusading Orders, like, I thought there was a little bit of a missed opportunity for a mechanic with Reponse, where you could actually, like, unlock a limited number of, like, Knights of the Blazing Sun, like Reiksguard and Empire Knights, possibly. Or even some of the other, like, provincial units from the Empire. Like some of the other knightly orders that have been added here. The Knights of Moor, Stubborn Bulls, Knights of the Everlasting Light. Like, you could unlock, like, literally, like, 1 or 2 of these to come join your armies as, like, Crusading Order. I think that'd be awesome. I think that'd be super cool to, as like a flavor add to really get the full crusade, like the Empire and Bretonnia uniting together. I also feel like on the Vortex map, at least, once you get to a certain point, that Lewin, Alberic, and the Fey Enchantress should come join your crusade. So if there are any mod makers out there, feel free to steal those ideas, or if you guys know of any mod makers who could make something like that, I think those would be 2 very, very cool mods. Help enhance the kind of the crusade feel of Reponce's campaign. Knights of the Blazing Sun, certainly. I mean, from a thematic standpoint, from the fire and from the, you know, the actual story of the Knights of the Blazing Sun, I think that would make sense. I think there's a specific lore thing that peasants can't use maces in Bretonnia. I'm pretty sure, Lord Benedict. Like, I'm pretty sure they're not really allowed to have any armor-piercing weapons except for bills. And they're not even really halberds, to be honest. But yeah. Would be nice. Would be nice. Maybe someone will make a mod where you can recruit the knightly orders with Bretonnia. Anyway, that's pretty much it. I think I might call it now, but unless you guys have any other questions, leave it for another minute. They couldn't get... Okay, they couldn't get decent weapons and armor. Okay. Sounds about right. Sounds about right. Absolutely, Lore Master, will do. I'm about to be done in the next few minutes, so I'll shoot you a message probably in like 10-15 minutes. But yeah, I think we're pretty much done for the day here. Yeah, I mean, I think certainly maybe adding a little bit more. Well, let me say this: for a long time I've been talking about Battle Pilgrims rather need like a redesign from their stat profile. For me, Battle Pilgrims need to be like a cheaper version of Sisters of Slaughter, where they have more melee defense than attack. And I know they're supposed to be kind of a DPS infantry, but they're shielded, right? So if we look, there's only one kind of shielded DPS infantry light armor in the game, and that's Sisters of Slaughter. Really the only unit I can think of that's any kind of comparison. They're almost double the cost, right? So, for me, looking at the Battle Pilgrims, like, if you bump them up to, like, 40 melee defense, I mean, obviously that's a huge change. Even, like, 38 melee defense, to be honest, would be good, but just a cheaper Sister of Slaughter, basically, is what I'm looking for. I think that would be an awesome, awesome way to make Battle Pilgrims way, way more useful, because they have good leadership, and then if they had good melee defense as well, they could actually hold pretty decently, and you could even drop their melee attack potentially a little bit as well, because the Frenzy, you know, maybe drop them down to 28 melee attack or so, even like 26. But just having them as a better defensive unit, like a higher tier defensive sword and shield unit, I think would actually be really, really nice. I would take them a lot. At 600 points, like if you were to make a comparison to other mid-tier kind of sword and shield units, like they're just so bad compared to something like a Tomb Guard, for example. For 150 points more, Tomb Guard are just night and day better in every single way. Except for melee attack, but weapon strength, 10 more melee defense. I mean, for only 100 more cost, they have more armor, better missile block chance, less leadership technically, but they are unbreakable, so, I mean, undead. Sorry, a bit of a slip of the tongue there. I don't know, Benedict. I didn't write the lore, but Mangler Squigs. Yes, Zach. Wait. Oh my God, my video about the greenskins. I will reference you. I have made 2 videos about stuff I want to see for the greenskins, and one of them I did talk about single entity squig. I don't care what kind of single entity squig. I just want a single entity squig. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Thank y'all for coming out. Lore Master of Sotek, Felcon, Aerocrastic, Flying Taco. Big thanks, guys. We're gonna end the stream here, but yeah, I'm gonna be picking it up. We'll probably resume with some Gorst campaign in potentially maybe like an hour or 2. I'll post a thing up on YouTube so you guys will see when it's gonna go live. But what do I think about Warplock Giselles? They're still really good. I mean, they got nerfed, which was a necessary nerf, but they're still really good, especially in enough numbers. But yeah, I definitely recommend at least like 1 or 2 in most builds. Greeny boys need wyverns. I would love feral wyverns for the greenskins also. That would be great. Thank you. But anyway, thanks a lot, guys. Thanks for joining. We'll catch you later. Again, gonna be back probably with Gorst campaign or multiplayer battles in a couple hours. I'm not really sure exactly what, but we'll see you later.